welcome to Temple of Divine with your host, High Priestess Makita Divine. Real talk for the walk. Check your head to the door and let's begin to explore. Let's go.
Okay. What is this is hello. I'm a little mixed up this morning. This is Temple of Divine TV, real talk for the walk with your host, High Priestess Makita Divine. That is me. We are broadcasting on WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world, on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and call at 313-355-6018. And let me know you're out there and what's going on, and if anything resonates with you, if you have questions, if you like it, if you don't like it, then let me know and let's start the dialogue, because real talk is what sets us free. Real talk is what helps us to expand our minds and understand different viewpoints. And that is what is needed for change everywhere. And we know we need change, don't we? But listen, so what I have, we're back to our regular format this week. Last week we had an amazing guest all about healing, Dr. Simona Monet. And so we're kind of back to the regular format of In the Matrix, where we talk about things in the news, what's going on. We have In the Vortex, which is kind of the real reality, that place where everything that we want kind of resonates until we're ready for it. In the Spirit is where we talk about spirituality and how we can connect our spiritual lives to our to everything else that's going on around us. And if we have time, we go in the body, and then we have a nice little send off with lyrics to live by, because music is such a important, vital part of life. So with that, I have a musical introduction to In the Matrix today. Let me just get it going here, because I had to find a special song for this, because it's just so appropriate. And this is a oldie but goodie. Okay, listen. Okay, wait, let me get the volume, because In the Matrix, I bet you know what's in the Matrix today, don't you? You know what's in the Matrix. Let me get you going here. You remember this? Absolutely nothing. War. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Right? In the Matrix, this week, last week, the week before last, what we talking about? War. Okay, so this is dating me, right? This is dating me. So, all right, so that's what's in the Matrix. In the Matrix, what you're thinking about, maybe front of mind for you, is the war. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Are you so sure? Let's talk about it. Today, in the Matrix, let's talk about war, and is it always bad, right? So, I know it's not going to be a popular viewpoint, and it's not a viewpoint at all. It's really just a different way, a perspective around war that I think might help you to view it in a different way. It might piss you off. If you get pissed, then go on and call me, tell me you're mad then, okay? But the point is that there's in general in the Matrix, there's always like this prevailing viewpoint that has the most momentum, that kind of has everybody kind of bound up about it. And that is the way that we look at things. So, and then there's an outlier of a few people who may think a little differently about these things, but they keep it on the down low because they don't want to piss everybody off, right? But when we're talking about real talk, the way we get past and the way we kind of understand these different things, it's got to be by having a dialogue and looking at different perspectives and being open-minded to look at different perspectives and being willing to trust yourself in terms of what resonates with you and what doesn't. So I went to look for things, what is good about war. Yeah, I said it. How can you say that, High Priestess Makita? What are you talking about? What's good about war? People over there in the Ukraine dying. They got neon. They got the power plant over there. What do you mean? Ain't nothing good about this. Nothing, nothing, nothing. They got pictures of pregnant women on the news. They got blood everywhere. This is awful. Absolutely nothing is good about war. Right? But wait. Now, this is, so I did a little research. Okay? Because I prepare for y'all. I don't just like, well, sometimes I come up here on some topics and just, like from my heart. But, and for this particular topic, I knew I couldn't come from my heart on it, and that I needed to make sure that I had some type of research or backing to help to share this so that it might have a chance of resonating just a little teeny bit with you and at least start to dialogue. So, there's a Stanford classics professor by the name of Ian Morris. Okay, he wrote a book called War, What Is It Good For? Conflict and the Progress of Civilization from Primates to Robots. And so he was both an archaeologist and a historian. And he surveyed, in his book, he surveyed thousands of years of war. And he had a thesis that, in fact, war has actually helped the progress of people and helped the progress of humanity versus damaging the progress of humanity. Stay with me though. Look, you don't like that, do you? I already know you don't like that. So if you don't like that, call me. 24. See, I'm about to give you my phone number to really call me. 313-355-6018. Call me if you don't like it. I dare you. Okay, but anyway. So let's go dig a little bit deeper. Okay, dig a little bit deeper. So he writes, Mr. Morris writes, by fighting wars, people have created larger, more organized societies that have reduced the risk that members will die violently. Okay? So in other words, he's saying, wait a minute, because we have these wars, we have bigger superpowers. So as long as you are fair and lined up with the bigger superpowers, you don't have to worry about somebody, cracking you over the head when you walk down the street, right? Theoretically. Okay? So let's go a little bit further. He talks about in the Stone Age, okay? A person, you and I, living in the Stone Age, had a 20% chance of dying violently at the hands of another human being. You had a 20% chance of dying violently at the hands of another human being. And somebody, I don't know, they didn't have guns then. Maybe they wouldn't put a cap in your ass, but, you might get beat down by a group of people, who knows, violently. So, but in the 20th century, now, even if you add in Hitler, Hiroshima, terrorism, and the Third World Wars, okay? Hitler, Hiroshima, Third World Wars, all of that, even if you included all of those, you had only a 1.2% chance of dying violently. So in other words, it might look like it's terrible because there's this concentration of people that are dying, and Lord knows, I've got sons. I don't want to see that. But it looks terrible, but in reality, the greater masses are living longer, better, less violent lives now than they were before in the Matrix because of war. Okay? Call me. You didn't like that either. Call me. Okay. So then it says this is an article. This is not, I'm not making this up. This is an article from Forbes magazine. This is Forbes. I was impressed at the level of diversity and diversity of thought that I found with Forbes magazine. It's a business magazine, a reputable business magazine, right? So as many as 200 million people may have died in wars throughout the 1900s. Okay? So you think 200 million people dying in wars during the 1900s, okay? But roughly 10 billion lives were lived during the same period. So that means that one could argue that, and some people argue, they say, oh, well, that's just because science found a better way to have more food. And because people have more food, then they live longer. But Morris had a different viewpoint. He says that the rise of and you're going to like this term, the Hobbesian Leviathan, the rise of the Hobbesian Leviathan is what has, how can I say this? That it could only come about by war. So in other words, we have this concept that says, oh, okay, war is good because instead of killing each other in the streets, we just need to, be obedient to the master government or whoever it is, and then we'll all live better lives, right? That's the theory. So Morris had identified this term that's the Hobbesian Leviathan, and Leviathan was in the book of Job in the Bible, this big monster that Job talks about, that he refers to as the king of all the children of pride. So Leviathan was the king of all the children of pride. So the 17th century English philosopher Hobbes, given Hobbesian, used the concept as a metaphor for having strong government in place and reducing, and by having strong government, reducing the amount of violent deaths taking place among the masses. So the masses benefit, and so that the only thing that people need to fear is the authorities that are above them. So in other words, you don't have to be afraid to walk down the street. Depending on where you live, maybe you need to be afraid to walk down the street. But you don't have to be afraid to walk down the street as long as you're afraid of your government. Okay, but think about it. Sounds like a great thing, right? In the Matrix. Now keep in mind, we're in the Matrix right now. We're in the Matrix. The Matrix is that what we see and what we perceive to be what real life is like, not in the spiritual perspective, but just the day-to-day. The Matrix is that place where things appear to be one way and there's so much more underneath it. So in the Matrix, war is the only way to get this state. And this state is perceived to be beneficial war for everybody because over time it results in a better, cleaner, more technology advanced government over the people and reduces the amount of violence that you have to learn that you have in a state of peace, right? So, and then what I wanted to share about this quote right here, he says that basically throughout history, Leviathan has generally been created not by resonated discussion. In other words, people didn't talk about war and go to war. He laments that it demonstrates that humanity has only found war is the only option for being able to have this progress. That sounds like a sad state of affairs, don't you think? And now, be honest about it and call me. And seriously, I know you probably have a different opinion, but don't be lazy. Think about it. Are we better off now because we have it? Are we better off in the Matrix now because we have this controlling force? Are you really better? Or would you have learned how to fight? You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, is it better to be a slave or a master of your own destiny, right? So the assumption under all this statement that war is good is that it's better to have a master than it is to be your own master. It's better to have an authority above you that you can fear than it is to be par with your enemy in your current existence. Do you think that's true? Do you agree with that statement? And that war is the only way to progress society so that we get that large entity that's, telling everybody what to do. In the Matrix, you kind of like got this puppet thing going on, right? So what do you think about that? You think that's true? To me, in the Matrix, I don't know about you, but I feel like I would have liked to learn how to fight. I feel like I would like to have learned how to defend myself. Now, that's a little different if you're like the weak little kid in the path. And I mean, there's always going to be stronger and weaker, right? Maybe you don't feel that way. But have we not, by using this strategy of war, for whatever reason, Putin's doing, for whatever reason they're doing what they're doing, the reality is that it's not, those guys, the higher level people, they might hurt a little bit in their pocketbook, but they're probably not changing their lives very much. But everybody, whether you're in Ukraine or Russia or in the United States, everybody's suffering. But you know what? You're watching Temple of Divine TV. Streaming live on WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. I'm so fired up by this topic, I can't even talk right. Anyway, you're watching Temple of Divine TV, Real Talk for the Walk on WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. Streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. Call me. 313-355-6018. And the other thing is, if you find the information that we're sharing here on Temple of Divine TV helpful to you, we take donations, and it's any amount is fine. You can send, if you're so inclined and you're inspired and it resonates with you, then feel free to go to Cash App, $MD Temple of Divine. That's Cash App, $MD Temple of Divine TV. And go ahead and make that happen. We are very grateful and eternally grateful for anything that you are willing to donate. So, with that, let's leave the Matrix, because I don't know about you, but I'm kind of tired of being in the Matrix with the whole war thing, and I want to go into the vortex. So let's talk about the vortex a little bit. So in the Matrix, we talked about war actually is a good thing, right? And what will surprise you about what I'm about to say is that in the vortex, for the vortex, war is a good thing. How can you say that, High Priestess Makita? What have you been? You got some edibles in there? What's going on? I don't, but I probably should try some. Anyway, so because let's look at the context of you as a spiritual being. Real talk. I know you don't hear about necessarily in church and all that, but real talk, you're an eternal spiritual being. You're living a temporary human experience. You don't have the rule books. You don't have the guidebooks. You don't have a manual. And you're out here living this life, stimulated by everything that comes in your path, reacting to everything that comes your way with emotion, building beliefs every single moment of every single day. Every single moment of every single day, you are, by your emotions, putting things into the vortex. Your higher self, because you are an eternal being, only part of you is here. There's a piece of your consciousness that is here physically in this earth suit, but there's also a piece of your eternal body that is in consciousness that is holding for you a vibration of the things that you want and not that you don't want. Your higher self only knows the things that you want, only knows the things that you desire. That's it. The negative stuff has no idea. Just standing there in the cut, holding the vibration of what you want. Okay? So how does stuff get into the vortex so that your higher self can be holding on to it? It's with contrast. And this is from Abraham Hicks. If you've ever, I definitely recommend this as a resource for your spiritual walk. But the thing is that since you are experiencing contrast, so war is a contrast. Contrast is basically anything that's going on in your life that you feel like is negative, it's bad, you don't like it, anything like that. You're constantly putting into your vortex the opposite of it. When you see war, you want peace. You put peace into the vortex. Your higher self holds on to peace, the vibration of peace, until you can line up with it. And we'll talk about that later in the spirit. So the reality is that what's happening now, and I came up with a new acronym. I'm going to share it a little bit later. Maybe I should share it now. Okay, I'll share it now. I'll give you a preview now. And then when I get to in the spirit, we'll go into a little bit more detail. But I was inspired this morning with a new acronym, okay? Because I was thinking about how over history, we have really, I lost my train of thought. So I was thinking about how over time, I would say in the last 3 to 5 years, I think, for me personally, it seems like there has been like this attack or losing of a lot of heroes and things that were good that maybe we were holding on to give us kind of that positive view. There were things that we were holding on to, things that we were holding up, like superheroes. And so I came up with this term, and I think I'm gonna use it as a new metric for thought, right? Because, and it's called it's FUS, okay? And the acronym is frequency of fucked up shit. That's what it stands for. FUS, frequency of fucked up shit. That's what it stands for. Anyway, I'll tell you more about it later. But the point is that in the vortex, whenever you have contrast and something is bad, you put something good into your vortex. The challenge is you can't get to it unless you change. And this is the kicker. This is why, people say, law of attraction doesn't work. That spiritual stuff, it's hooey, blah, blah, blah. The reason is because in the personal development space and in the spiritual space, people are out there making money, and they'll take pieces of these concepts, their spiritual concepts, they all work, they're spiritual concepts, but you only get a piece of it. And so the piece that you may be missing is the piece that you need. And the piece I think I was missing, because I've been following personal development since Tony Robbins started Unlimited Power back decades ago, right? Like when he was young, didn't have any wrinkles, his voice was different. Okay, I have been following personal development that long, okay, since Moses left Egypt. And for me, the thing that's missing in all that stuff is the emotion. Emotion is the way you communicate with the vortex, and the emotion is what law of attraction snatches up and takes and brings you more up. It serves you up more of whatever you're focused on. This is the problem with law of attraction from many perspectives. And it's not even a problem. It always works. It always works. But the challenge is that in order for you to get to the point that you want to be over there, you have to resonate and vibrate at that level. So here's the reason why war will never, ever help you to have the life that you want without this. And that is because when you're in the matrix and you see the war, and the media does a really great job. Somebody was saying something about, I saw a pregnant lady with blood flowing, children are dying, they bombed the children's hospital, this is horrible. How? You have to be intentional about seeing a better world when the horrors of the current world are in your face every single day, every single second if you let it. You have to be intentional about what you're feeling. You have to be intentional about what you're doing in order for you to connect with the higher version of you that's holding in vibration the world that you want to see. So in the vortex is when you really need to, the way to get what's in the vortex, the way to change your world, you got to deal with that stuff. You have to be intentional about holding in mind what you want and not what you don't want. Why is that so important? It's because the longer you experience those emotions, the longer you look at the news and you cry because of the horrors that you see, the longer that you take someone's words, the longer that you tweet stuff that you hate, the more time that you spend criticizing people you don't like, the more time that you spend engaging, judging people, talking about their sin, putting one group above another, putting one group below another, the more time you spend doing those things, guess what you're doing? You're just going to get served up more of it. That's why the world looks like it's, upside down and chaotic. There's nothing in this world that didn't begin as a thought. So what that means is people have been thinking. So then let's look at my FUS. Okay. So if that's true, then look how, if I was a controlling force, okay, if I was Leviathan or the Hobbesian Leviathan, if I was Hobbesian Leviathan and I wanted to keep you in fear, this is what I do. I would take all your heroes and make them lose. I mean, like, what's the big guy's name? Text me, comment below, or call in with the big guy's name, the Marvel hero. What's his name? Starts with a T. Thanos. Whatever his name, Thanos. 313-355-6018. Call me and help us sister out. Okay, so how did you feel? If you're like a superhero fan, how did it make you feel when Thanos won? Right? You got to think about, how does it make you feel? This is kind of like a form of, it's almost like a form of warfare, right? But you don't even know you're in it. You're just responding, because when we're not intentional, we'll talk about being more intentional in the spirit. But when you're not intentional, then what do? Every stimuli that comes your way, you respond in kind of a standard way to people. You respond based on your beliefs. Some people are affected stronger, some people are not. But the vortex is holding everything that you want. Okay? Your thoughts. And the way that it works is for bigger things like this, like war and different types of things, the thought that you think, it has a life. And it goes off and it finds other people who had those same thoughts. And they find people. And momentum begins. And so, it's, to me, in my personal life, it started with the Marvel heroes. I was like, what's wrong? How can Thanos win? That never happens. What do you mean Captain America's retiring? Oh, no, that's not. Batman is what? Then Kobe got killed. I was like, wait a minute. Kobe got killed. Wait a minute. Like, this is like, this was devastating in my family. Okay, I have a basketball family. And Kobe, it was devastating. When that happens, though, what were you thinking about? You don't think, oh, wow, you know what? The sport is going to be great. We're going to take all that we learned from Kobe and we're going to expand and we're going to grow and we're going to be better. No, that's not what people think. You're thinking, oh my gosh, how could that happen? Oh, it was a helicopter crash? I'm never going to fly the helicopter before. Always fear. It brings up fear in you, right? So if I was Hobisi and Leviathan, yeah, I'd kill off your heroes, right? Then I would get somebody in political office to just piss you off, right? I would take the highest place in your land, and I would make certain that I could get somebody in there who could be controversial. I would make you angry on either side of a situation. Whether you're a supporter or not a supporter, I would piss you off. Because guess what? When you're pissed off, you're not thinking, oh man, the world, you know what? I would love to see a world where, everyone is represented equally and there's peace in the world. And you're not going to see that. You're not thinking that. But that's what that's what you want to be thinking, to line up with the peace that's in your vortex. But you're not thinking that. Because Obese and Leviathan knows exactly how to trigger your buttons, press your buttons, so that you don't respond that way, right? So listen, before we go into the spirit, let's tell you that you are watching Temple Divine TV, Real Talk for the Walk, on WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world, streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never, ever miss an episode of Temple Divine TV every Saturday at 3 p.m. And if you are helped, inspired, pissed off, or otherwise moved at all by the content in this show, and then feel free to donate. We do graciously accept donations at $MD Temple Divine TV on Cash App. And call. Like, seriously. Real talk for the walk is not just about High Priestess talking. It's about you talking and sharing what you feel about something, or sharing questions. Because I tell you what, when I started my spiritual journey, I didn't have anyone to ask questions to. And part of me, so it's kind of like twofold. I didn't feel like I had anyone to ask questions to because my beliefs were contrary to mainstream. So even though I was very religious and I was in church, I had spiritual things that were happening to me, around me. My perspectives were changing. They were different than what everyone else was experiencing. And because of that, I kind of shut down a little bit. I was like, oh, I can't ask you a question about this because you're going to get all fired up. Because, I don't know about you, but I grew up Christian, and y'all Christian folk, you get really fiery. I grew up with a bunch of really fiery Christian folk. And so if you said one little thing that was kind of contrary to what everybody else was saying, they'd be like, oh no, honey. You need to pray about it. You need to read your Bible some more. You need to, you know what, you need an exorcism, okay? You need something that's not right with you. So that is why it's important for you to call in and join the conversation. Because this is a place where you can ask the questions that are on your mind. You can ask the question or at least have a conversation. I may not have the answers because I'm on the journey just like you on the journey. So you can call in and ask a question. High priest would be like, you know what? That's a good question. I don't know. But here's how you need to get an answer. Check with yourself within, right? Because as an eternal spiritual being, the most knowledgeable person about the answers to the questions that you need to have answered is you. And this is not something that really gets taught a lot, right? But it's a reality. And even in my spiritual walk, there have been questions that I didn't have answers to. And I got answers. And they didn't come from anybody outside of me. You're connected. You just need to increase your awareness. So this is real talk for the walk is let's have real talk. Let's ask the questions. Let's don't be ashamed to ask a question that's stupid. Don't be afraid to ask a question that is like makes you feel like you the devil's. You know what? Don't be afraid to ask a question that your family and friends might be like, okay, you know what? I don't know what's wrong with her, but I'm not going over her house no more. Go ahead and ask it. Go ahead and tell people about the special gifts that you have. We had a lady on here last week. Our guest last week. We talked to dead people. You know, it happens. It happens. It actually happens. Uh-oh. Something happened. I think my battery died. Anyway. Oh, no, we didn't. So the point is, don't be afraid to call in because you think that you might have some question that is so crazy that somebody's going to think some type of way about you. Because guess what? They can't see you anyway. So anyway, that's High Priestess going off on a wicked to make sure you understand that it's okay to call. Don't just watch. Call. You're part of the show. If you're watching right now, or you're watching this on a replay, and you have something to say, or you're moved by something, or you're curious about something, put a comment in, or reach out and call in at 313-355-6018. That's why we have a number. Otherwise, you might as well watch me on a YouTube video and not participate. But you can participate in this show. Okay? So, that's enough about that. Now as we go on in the spirit. Okay. So we started out, we talked about war. What is it good for? And then we said, oh, well, you know what? Technically, some very smart people, like in Forbes magazine, think that war, and Mr. Morris, the Stanford professor, thinks that war is good because war creates a higher power for you to be afraid of so you don't get killed on the street. Now, and then we said in the vortex, well, in the vortex is a whole world that you want to enjoy. The one that doesn't have war, the one that doesn't have killing, the one that doesn't have hunger, the one that doesn't have racism. That place right there is your higher self is holding for you that reality. Problem is, you need to get to the vibration so you can match your higher self, so you can connect to that reality. But it's virtually impossible, right? Unless you have intention, because controlling forces, they know how to press your buttons, know how to trigger you, know how to get you upset, and keep you at a lower level vibration consistently. I noticed the trend in my personal awareness of how many TVs are around. And I when I started to look at, like, if I were Hobeesian Leviathan, how would I be able to reach into your mind and know what upsets you? Do you know, I've done this on several occasions, but there's an app on Google, it's called Google Trend, where you can actually go in there and search up and see what people are Googling about. And why is that significant? From a control perspective, because that it's almost like, it's like the stock market is a little bit like a barometer of emotion, because people react to different things that happen in business. Well, the same thing is happening all the time with us, right? So when you go in and you can go into Google Trends and see what they're talking about. Typically, what I found though is people they're usually googling about people, other people's lives, other people's business. Now they're probably googling about the Ukraine, but um, there's always that activity of there's a pulse. All these gadgets that we have, your phone, your laptop, work in the cloud. Don't you know? Okay, that every this sounds like conspiracy theory. I swear I'm not a conspiracist. I'm really not, but I'm a realist. So all the think about it. All of your phone, your cloud computing, all that stuff. You gotta know that there's a big ass database somewhere that's pulling all that stuff together. You got to know that artificial intelligence, as great as it is, it helps me, in my business. It helps you. It helps you on your with different gadgets and stuff. You better know that somewhere is chugging away a big computer that has all that information and it's making associations. It's what shows up in Twitter, what shows up here, until there's like this very accurate, very intricate mechanism that can move the emotional consciousness of mankind at a whim. It's like a massive digital psych evaluation, right? Because as we begin to, we continue to respond to different things, then and if we can use technology to devise associations between all those things that we're thinking and doing and the response that comes in through social media and other aspects of things, then I, as Hobeesian Leviathan, I can know exactly what I need to put in the media to make you move. I know exactly what I need to do to the distribution channels to make you feel fear. I know exactly what I need to do. I need to hit you where it's home. So maybe I allow a war that happens to raise gas prices to $5 a gallon so you can feel the pain of the potential fear of loss. I, as Hobeesian Leviathan, would kind of that would be a smart thing to do, don't you think? Because over time, I can manipulate you in any way I want. So that trend, and we're in the spirit, we really are in the spirit, not in the matrix. So that trend of putting these different events out here, watching the conversation on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Okay, that's like the pulse. That's what people are thinking. Before we had social media, there was no way to know what people were thinking. Okay? No way to know what people are thinking. But now, there's a way to know what people are thinking. There's a way to know how they respond. Because all this stuff that we share on Temple of Divine, in terms of in the spirit, in terms of being an eternal spiritual being, in terms of heart resonance, in terms of vibrational vortexes and all that kind of stuff, let me tell you, this stuff has been around for centuries. It's not new. I'm amazed every day I sit around, I go, why aren't people like paying attention to this? This is right here. It's been here for years. All this stuff, all the research and all that stuff, it's been around for centuries, okay? It's not new. It's hidden in plain view, right? So in the Matrix, we'll get to a point where if you're not intentional about working with your spirit, that you're just here, you're just kind of like a pawn. You're just responding. They throw something out at you. Oh, it's time to throw out that racism bone. Boom. Oh, the black people all get mad. Forget about focusing on their spirituality, and we're off to the races. Trump's running again. Boom. Let's put that out there. Let's see what happens here. I swear, I feel like there's this little guy. Like Wizard of Oz, they had a guy with the big green curtain, right? Behind the curtain, this is a little guy, and he's like moving things around. I swear, it's somebody that's like, they got these little bitty news things. They be like, well, you know what? I see that people are feeling a little bit peaceful. They're getting spiritual. They're looking at spiritual awakening. It's time to snatch your superheroes right. Boop. Okay, let's see. Now, let me look at the monitor. Okay, I see that. Yes, they're fearful now. Yes, they're upset now. Okay, we're good for a while. They were like, man, they're really responding quickly. They're back at peace and happiness and looking for a real world again. Oh, boop. I think we need to throw on some. Who can we throw out there that really would make an impact on people in the U.S.? Let's do U.S. Oh, let's Kobe crashes. Oh, let's see. Okay, people are fear. They're depressed. They're sad. Oh, but damn, they really are responding quickly because we're experiencing a spiritual awakening on the planet, right? So there are people, and you are responding more quickly. So that's why the F us, the frequency of fucked up shit, is increasing because you, as a human being, an internal spiritual being, are getting better and better at becoming connected with your spiritual self. So that means that in order to keep you in a state of fear, there has to be a barrage of shit. Excuse my French. Please don't be offended, religious people. But sometimes this is nothing but a good cuss word will do. Anyway, so because of that, there has to be an increased frequency of stuff because you're responding quicker. You know now that meditation centers you. You know now that if you're on a negative wicket, take a nap. Your grandmother was right. Okay? So we know more now. The world is smaller because we have access to other people's opinion. The good side of internet is we can go out and find some people that agree with us. We can find some groups that connect with us. So there's good and well, let me not say good, bad, okay? I'm trying to break myself of that habit. There are both sides, right? So that's why it's like, oh, but wait a minute. They're getting a little bit back to their keel. They're looking for a positive world again. Oh, well, we got to throw Putin in there with a war. Boop! Oh, the war. Oh my gosh. And then people are like, oh, wait, it's a war. Then they get a little bit more fearful. What if the U.S. gets in a war? Oh, what is Biden going to do? Oh, fear increases. I'm, as Hobbesian Leviathan, I love it when you're scared, right? So I want to make you even more afraid. So I throw the war out there. Then it's like, oh, there's a nuclear power plant there. Boom. Oh, people are bad again. So listen, here's the thing. In the spirit, how do we get beyond this? This F us. This is going to be I'm going to figure out a way to measure this metric. I was thinking about this morning. I got to find a way to measure F us. FFUS. Frequency of fucked up shit. I got to figure out a way to measure this. Okay? So I'm going to be working on this over the next several weeks on how can I measure F us. FFUS. But here's the thing. Because you're an eternal spiritual being, you're creating your own reality. And the only thing that stands in the way of you and the world that you want to see, believe it or not, if you don't agree, call me. I dare you to call me. 313-355-6018. The only thing that's standing in between you and the world that you want to see, it's all based on your emotions. So what's happening is Hobbesian Leviathan is manipulating your emotions. Because nothing can make your world be a certain way. You really do have complete control over that. You really do. But you can be in one or two camps. You're either intentionally managing your emotions or you're allowing your emotions to be managed by the stimuli that's outside of you. You're either internally managing your emotions or you're allowing external stimuli to manage your emotions for you, to elicit, let me say this a different way, to elicit an emotional response from you that then feeds into a thought that goes into the ether that finds other like thoughts to gain momentum so that the mass consciousness is focused on the negative thing, the fear. I know that was a mindful. So just come back and replay. Just play it again. You have to get that again. So the reality is that you're always in control. Whether you are responding to an external stimuli or you're intentional about an internal response, it's still you. So if you change your belief so that you don't allow the external stimuli to elicit the emotion in you, and you're in control and you hold in mind the life that you want to see instead of the life that you're looking at with your eyes, then you can connect with your higher self and change the world. Yes, you really can. And that's my belief. I say, don't take my word for it. Try it. do we do this? You may say, well, okay, that sounds good, but how does one actually do that? Because you've got media, you've got social media, you've got your phones, you've got people, you've got all kinds of stuff up here that is drawing your attention in. So how can I be intentional, High Priestess Makita? How can I be intentional about managing, about my emotional response to things when there's so much stuff around me all the time? How can I not look at that? How can I not see that stuff that's going on? You got to be kidding me. Are you serious? That's what the In the Spirit segment of this show is about. Because in the Spirit, we talk about tools, techniques, methodologies that can help you. And we're going to have people that come in and talk about things like crystals. But you got to get there to where you even accept that those things could help you. But the point is, this is the one thing that you can absolutely do starting today that will help you to become more intentional about your emotional response to things so that you can align more with your higher self. Because your higher self doesn't see the drama, the higher self doesn't see the bullshit, your higher self doesn't see the fear. Your higher self only sees the higher version of you. And that one thing, as I've shared on multiple shows, is meditation. Now, I know there's a lot of different types of meditation. And Lord knows, I feel like I've tried